Hey everybody, Manga Mike here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about 5 different ways to improve your first chapter. So, let's get started. Alright, so let's look at the 5 different ways you can improve your first chapter. So the first way is on your first page, and I call this the WMH method: world, mood, and hook. So let's look at how world is introduced within the first page of both Bleach and Fullmetal Alchemist. So we have a few things within this first page. One, there's a ritual that's happening that's obviously very important to Fullmetal Alchemist. This is the Alchemy Circle. So we get a glimpse of that. We also get a glimpse of, it's kind of magical, it seems, right? So magical that somebody's actually lost a leg while trying to perform it. So that's a good introduction to Fullmetal Alchemist, I believe, in the first page. We also have dialogue that kind of supports the world building aspect of it, because a person named Alphonse is gone, right? And this person, we don't know this person's name quite yet, is looking for him. So that's important too. And then finally, we also get a theme within the first page. You don't have to do this piece, but it's a good idea, or a good possibility in order to kind of promote your world even more. So we have: a painless lesson is one without meaning. One who does not sacrifice anything cannot achieve anything, right? So that's important too. That's a few ways in which the world was kind of built within the first page. So now we move on to Bleach. Bleach's world is kind of built up through it's not as in your face, but it's very subtle. So we have spirit energy being introduced within this page. We have the fact that this person, Rukia, is carrying a sword, has a different kind of attire on that we're not quite used to. And then also this kind of scroll in which is kind of seemingly pointing them in the direction of where they need to be going, right? All those things are pretty important. Now let's go back to mood. Right off the bat, both of these pages, if you look at both of them, there's something in common. That is, they're both dark, right? And that's important for both stories. Both stories kind of have dark undertones to them, and it's a way to kind of show your audience in a subtle way that this story is either going to be happy by having bright stuff, or in this case, it's going to have some sad points, and you should be ready for that, right? So that's something you want to think about within your first page. And if you're using color, your color should also kind of reflect the mood of your story. And then also, as far as artwork is concerned, again, there's a sense of mystery in this panel. I said that in my last video, but that sense of mystery kind of helps provide a mood, right? There's a lot going on within the first, I would say, 100 or so chapters of Bleach that are very mysterious. So that's a good way of subtly hinting at the fact that the mood of your story is going to have a little bit of a mysterious vibe to it. And then I would say here too, the artwork of, somebody losing a leg is very gruesome, and this kind of archaic looking language that's being put down on this is also a little bit of a mood thing as well. And then finally, the hook. I would say the hook for both of these is pretty similar. I think enough of the information about the comic or manga has already been presented to us, and it provides us with questions, right? Like, who's Alphonse? Why is he missing? Why is this kid's leg gone? And in this particular circumstance, how does she have superpowers? Where is she going? What's spirit energy? All of those things are a hook, right? So hooks, basically, you want to be able to push your audience towards questions, right? That's important. You want to provide questions for your audience within the first page. So let's move on to number 2. These are really important to get right. Reveals, right? You can have a reveal, and if you don't do it correctly, and it could be the most important reveal of your story, if you don't do it correctly, it's going to fall flat, and that's not what you want, right? So in this particular circumstance, this is a reveal of the audience basically seeing Ichigo and Rukia together for the first time, but It's just a reveal in general for Ichigo because he's never even seen Soul Reapers. I'm going to get back to this page in a minute, but there's two different aspects as well that are important to a good reveal. And they're the two R's. They are the reveal and the reaction, right? So there's a reveal of Rukia and he has a reaction. So we're going to go through different reveals as well, and I'll show you both of those things being implemented. And of course, I forgot to add this other page, but Ichigo becoming a Soul Reaper for the first time, this is a reveal. And I want you to take note. This one was important for me to put up because this takes up the entire page, these two panels of Ichigo being a changed person, right? And that's something, too, that you want to think about for your reveal. These are important. They're called reveals for a reason. They should be taking up the majority of the space on the page, right? And just so y'all know, I didn't add it, but the reaction piece of this reveal is on the very next page, and it's Rukia reacting to Ichigo's new, form, if you will. Okay, so we have another reveal of alchemy without a circle, and it takes up, again, most of the page. It's probably a third or so of this page, and then you get a reaction, right? The two R's. Please remember that. It's super important. So this reaction as well is also a little bit of an explanation, right? He's basically saying that he transmuted without a circle, and that's different. That's something you want to think about too. Don't get too exposition-y, but that is something you want to think about doing if it might not be as obvious as you would like. So again, this page, and number 3, pacing. So I am thinking about using this method on my own, and maybe it will be helpful for you as well. When you're pacing, you don't want to go more than 3 pages of doing one specific thing without having something interrupting it. And it might even be closer to 2. I think 3 is the absolute max. And what do I mean by that? If you have 3 pages of something really, really serious and then you go on to a 4th, the pacing is going to lack a little bit because your reader needs something else to kind of break them out of feeling just the same way throughout your chapter. So in this case, there was a page before this that was pretty serious as Ichigo is starting to realize that he had never seen a Soul Reaper before. He didn't even know that they existed. And then we get a reaction from Ichigo with this reveal, like I said earlier, and it's continuing to be serious, and then, boop, we have something to break up the seriousness, which is something comedic, right? The opposite is true, too. If you have a lot of comedy, you need something serious to kind of break that comedy up every once in a while. All right. Oops, sorry about that. Number 4, emotions. Every panel that you create should have some kind of emotional aspect to it. If there's a character or even if it's an atmosphere, right? Something needs to be there for it to even be a panel worth drawing, right? It needs to be worth the time. So if you don't have some kind of emotion from your characters in that panel, you might want to rethink that panel. And I also wanted to highlight sound effects can help kind of enhance the emotion that's happening within a panel or a page, and that's exactly what this does. This increases the anxiety of this page because these are heartbeats, right? Boom, 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 boom. And that's something that would realistically be happening before you shove a sword through yourself, right? So that's important to think about too. If you want to enhance the emotion within a page, really amplify it, sound effects sometimes can help. And another kind of emotional thing that can happen, again, is through atmosphere. And really this is through your composition. So the author, Taikubo, he obviously wanted us to feel like this task he wasn't going to be able to accomplish this. Ichigo there was just no way. And a great way of doing that is by having this hollow kind of towering, that's hard for me to say. He's imposing on Ichigo by having this huge, height advantage, basically. He's quadruple or even maybe more than that, the size of Ichigo. He's as big as these buildings, and Ichigo is just this silhouette standing in the front. So that's something to think about too. How can I make this atmosphere feel exactly how I want my readers to feel in this moment, right? Or exactly how these characters are feeling in this moment. And then finally, this is last but it's definitely not least, I think establishing shots are one of the most important things that you can implement within your comic, especially within the first page, or not the first page, but within the first chapter. You want to be able to help us feel what the setting is and help it feel like the characters are really placed in a setting. And in turn, it'll create your audience, a feeling of your audience also being in that setting. So I wanted to kind of highlight this and kind of talk briefly about it. It has this old-timey feel to it, which might make us feel like it's in a different era. It's almost steampunky, and the pipes going in the background, this factory also in the background, kind of industrial feel to it. And then we also have something that's extremely important, which is this radio, right? And the radio is kind of bringing attention to the fact that these people are listening to some kind of like religious thing. So in the first page, and this is just the second page, in the first page we get this like possible form of magic, and then the next page is there's this like religious town that's kind of happening right afterwards, and it's like, how do these things mesh? Do they mesh? All those things are super important, and now you get this feeling that these people might not necessarily be on board with something like alchemy, and they're not, right? They kind of feel that alchemy is actually a miracle happening in front of their eyes, when in reality it's not. So that's something important to think about as well. All right. So those are the 5 different ways in which you can improve your first chapter. And again, this is all of them kind of lined up for you. You have your first page, and then the WMH method. You have reveals of all kinds. I only went over 2 different kinds of reveals really, but anything can really be a reveal, and you want to make sure you allot the space and stuff for that. Pacing, I will dedicate action in particular to a whole other video, and we'll kind of go in depth discussing those things. Emotion's important, and then don't forget your establishing shots. Whenever there's a change in setting, you want to make sure you have like basically like a full page kind of showing what that new setting is like. All right. Well, I really do hope that was helpful. If you liked it, please leave a like. If you haven't already, please think about subscribing. I'm trying to get to 1K before the end of the year, and I would really like to have you be part of the Manga Mike community. So anyways, that is pretty much it. In my next video, I'll be talking about characters that complement one another and why that's important. And until then, I'm Manga Mike, and I'm out.